If you enjoy Thank the Maker, you can support us by following and leaving.
Mike.
Oh my God. I think I do that every single time.
Mike.
I'm sorry.
Hello there, and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hokey religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I'm Nick Gambarian.
And I am Mike Forster, filling in for Adam Russell as production manager, doing a terrible job as we've started this entire podcast off with the outro. But I'm making up
do
for
the whole podcast backwards.
I know it's hard. It is hard. And this stuff is hard. You know what I mean? These are trying times. Am I right? We are here joined by our dear friend, Deon Rexroat from Amberlynn. Deon, welcome back to the show. A multiple time member, now 5 times a guest. I think you are definitely the most guestest.
I'm like that member or that host on Saturday Night Live that just keeps coming back. Like an Alec Baldwin or a John Goodman.
I think it's 5, right? I think the number is 5 on SNL. They just did a thing about it. They just did a skit about it recently. And there's a lot of them. And there's people who've done more than 5, but 5 I think is the actual number that they celebrate.
Yeah, they did a whole I can't remember which actor it was hosting one week, but they did like a whole thing, like he was welcome to the 5 Club. Jacket, and they like walked him into the special room, and it was like all these obviously famous actors that had hosted the shows more than 5 times, and like one of them was like up to like 9 or something like that.
Who was that?
It was Baldwin.
I don't remember. This had to have been early 2000s maybe. In that era when like Will Ferrell and everybody was still on.
True.
So a month ago, Martin Short cold opened SNL with a 5 Timers Club skit. Nice. So there's a lot of people.
Iconic. Well, here you are, Martin Short, Deon Rexroat. We made
same person.
I'll get you a jacket at Mosh Isley. Deon, how are you? Fill us in what's going on. You are in plan. I mean, I have to obviously. I got to hype both you guys up. Nick's about to leave to go to the UK for Bayside, the Eras Tour. You're about to get on the road for Never Take Friendship Personal, an anniversary tour. What is happening? Tell me what is going on for the people.
I think the fact that you just noted that both of our bands have been doing this for 20 plus years is a question. So I say what is happening pretty much all the time whenever we get to do anything. The fact that it's been 20 years since we put out this album is pretty crazy in the first place. So we're kind of in that backwards ticking clock, the countdown of getting tour prepped and ready, merch designs all settled on. We did a really smart thing. We decided a month before we leave on tour to completely change our storage and move all of our gear across the other side of town. So, just to add to the stress of the whole thing. So
it wasn't stressful enough.
Yeah,
make it more stressful.
Yeah, we're cleaning house a little bit. So if anybody wants a 20 by 30 Amberlynn banner, just hit me up.
Yeah.
Seriously, our
gigantic blanket.
I was gonna say, our crew, our whole crew, like is in the chat right now, being like, how big? How big can I put that on the side of my house? That's fine. From both of your perspectives, you both have new music coming out. You both have had new music within the last year. You both released new music last year, and it rips. As a fan of both of your bands from all the way back 20 years ago, but then also now, what is it like? Do you fall back in love with these songs when you get to play it in the entirety? Do you get to, are these songs that at this point you're so familiar playing that how do you not feel like you're going through the motions with songs that you've played for this long for both of you?
Do you have an answer?
I think with album plays,
let's ask the bass player first.
Yeah, let's always ask the bass players. Nobody else knows what's going on. I think with album plays, the fun part about doing them is you get to play songs that you don't play all the time.
Sure.
So one of the songs off of Friendship that we don't play in a normal rotation would be a song like Audrey Start the Revolution. It's a fun song. It's just kind of go from the beginning of the song. It's it's one I always liked, but we just never added it to the regular rotation. So when we do
Sure.
downplay, I look forward to playing that every night. Another one is the last song on the album, Dance Dance, Krista Pafkin.
Yeah.
It's like over 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
You know, we don't always get to play
Thumps on the bass though, baby. It thumps.
even Cambria. We can't play every song. These days, you know? So,
Right. My hands are tired.
yeah, I'm tired. So
do you feel like, I know this is the case for me, I remember older songs better than I remembered newer songs, because I feel like it was like there was such a dedicated time specifically for like the first 5 records really for us. There was such a dedicated time to playing those songs and demoing them and just being in a rehearsal space like over and over and over and over, that they're in like my 20-something-year-old brain that was still like forming. Like they're actually still in there. And then we wound up playing a bunch of them for years.
yeah.
And then there's newer songs, like really there's a line in the sand for me, like our 6th record, Cult. From Cult on, there's songs on there that we literally played once in the studio, recorded, and never listened to them or heard them again. So I'm like, I don't know what this song is. But if you told me I needed to play like track 7, like whatever, track 7 from our 2nd or 3rd record, like whatever, I'd be like, oh yeah, I got that, no problem. I played that 1 million times when I was 27. But
yeah, the rotation was much better. The rotation was much more widespread when you only have so many albums out, because you're just trying to keep it interesting. We when in those days we were all touring a lot more, like, I mean, I think there was like one year where we toured, it had to have been 10 months total out of the whole year. Like at one point I was asking myself, like, why do I even have a home? Why am I paying rent? Like this is stupid. Should have moved everything into storage. But to keep it interesting, you throw new songs in the set constantly. And then after you get past a certain number of albums, it's like, well, you've built this back catalog of these fan favorite songs, but then you got to try and fit new songs in there. So there's not really time for the deep cuts. So it becomes a thing hard, because there's always the songs that everybody's like, man, I wish we could play that song, but we can't really justify cutting this song, right? And we need to play a new song, so we can't put this here. And it becomes a whole juggling act of what do we play. And and I'm with you. We have songs that we have never played off of certain albums, and the only reason I think we did play them up until it would have been 2020, 2021 is when we did the live streams where we went through all of our albums.
Sure.
And I literally had to go when we were prepping for those live streams and learn some of our own songs.
Make notes.
Because I recorded the bass as soon as the producer or engineer said that was a solid take. You got it. You nailed it. I was like, okay, move on. And I never played the song again.
Yeah. That's definitely a thing. Yeah.
Just because you wrote it doesn't mean you can play it. I mean, I think in some regards, like seeing you guys in Wisconsin this year, and I'm like, I'm a fan of the whole retrospect, right? And I have said that for Nick as well. I appreciate the hell out of hearing newer songs that are in my rotation, and then obviously going back and I've seen other bands where they're really like, yeah, we know we have these songs, but what happens is your discography gets so big. And I can understand also as an artist from sitting here and going, we know that we're never not going to play the track, right? We're never not going to play these songs, but like certainly to go back and see some of these deeper cuts that I understand when you're playing live, you're like this one, again, a 7-minute song. You're like, we know that this one probably wouldn't crush if we're really running out of time here. Right. But I'm super excited to see this tour. I think it's going to be great. And then for going down I'm going to try to go down to Detroit, see Nick. I'm trying to give him a whole experience.
You have 2 days, dude, because that's our whole thing. Like we're
right.
Yeah. How many albums do you have, Deon?
6.
What are we at? We're at 8 now.
Oh,
okay. We have 9.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we have 9, and like our whole idea that we wanted to like pursue this year was playing 2 shows so we could give each like era its own, night. So it's a lot of songs. I mean, we're going to play double the amount of shows this year, play double the amount of songs, and it's a lot. It's definitely a lot, but yeah, Mike, you have two days to come. I would come to the second day, honestly.
Okay, that sounds
That's
good.
gonna be fun.
You know, Deon, again, you know, I'm always loving to be a tour guide for the city of Detroit, so I will do my darndest. But sometimes it's just easier to go to Chicago, man. We could just go to Chicago too. There's a part of me that also wants to, I think, ask. This episode is Star Wars is emo. And I think what we've talked about last time when we were talking with Ryan about this, there is like this beautiful moment of where these iconic albums came out for both of you around the mid 2000s. Revenge of the Sith is coming out. Summer 2004, 2005 was like Star Wars is happening. We want to see Darth Vader turn into Darth Vader. Like all these things were happening. There is such a moment in time, I think, for a lot of us where that's why we didn't move on from this franchise. That's why we didn't move on from this music. That's why people are asking for you guys to play these albums 20 years later. Deon, from your perspective, what do you think is that secret sauce that's letting these millennials just cannot let go of? What is it?
You know, we were just talking about this recently. We had a show in Aurora, Illinois that Mike couldn't pick himself off and, you know, dust himself off and come out to. Thanks a lot for that. Brooke was there, not you.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, no, we were talking about that actually on that trip. You know, we're all together, we're flying, and we're just, you know, we got time to kill when you're sitting at the airport and stuff. And it's funny, when I was in high school in the 90s, because I'm old, the throwback music was 20 years old. So you had kids walking around school in Jimi Hendrix shirts,
right,
Led Zeppelin shirts, you know, things like that.
Back when music was good.
Yeah. and I'm walking around school in an Operation Ivy shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, or Descendants or whatever, you know, what have you. You know, stuff that I was listening to at the time that was actually even old by that point. I mean, and when in the mid 90s, Operation Ivy had been broken up nearly 10 years.
Right. Misfits.
You know, like
Misfits are long gone.
Right? Yeah, Misfits are long gone. We're all discovering stuff. Yeah. But then also at the same time, you know, you had you know, Effects, Lagwagon, No Use for a Name. You had all these great bands that were, you know, that were going, that were either new or still going. So it's funny because we were quoting that. I was like, wow, you know what? Are we now the 70s band of this generation? Because we are 20 plus years old now, you know? So kids in high school are literally listening to
classic rock, man.
The early 2000s. You know, let's say you're in high school right now in 2025. You're listening to a band from 2005. What album came out in 2005? Never Take Friendship Personal. Right. It's like it's a weird thing to even think about. Again, like I said, I ask myself constantly what's going on, because I'm now in a position where I looked at music like that as being so old, my parents' music, whatever.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, and now here's where I am. You know, you either die here or live long enough to see yourself an old man.
It's true. I remember like my dad being like, well, you know, my friends and I are going to go see Steely Dan tonight. And I'd be like, what? Like, what? Dad, Steely Dan is old. And then he'd bring me to a Blink show and he would be like, are you serious? Like, are you serious with this? Like this, you paid money to see this? Oh, and I'm like, it's the greatest thing I've ever heard, Dad. I'm in seventh grade. I can't believe that they say all these things. And I'm sorry you're here with me because this is wildly offensive. But I think what's interesting from that standpoint is like we have this, as we're getting into this segue here. Now we're introducing, like, my daughter listens to my music when we're in the car. Right.
Yeah, and you're lucky. I'm still getting requests for Wicked and Taylor Swift every single day.
and Deon, I will not deny that doesn't happen. But, you know, we kind of we got to, like, you know, I'm sitting here going, I can't listen to this, you know, list. We heard it. We heard it. We
exactly. Time, please, for the love of God.
100%. But, you know, she knows go to hell, and she's rocking to, never take friendship personal. And like, we're having this moment where like, she's listening to dad's music, but this is still very much like, this is still very much who I am and what we listen to. So it's an interesting thing because as Skeleton Crew just came out, like Deon, you were saying before we started the show that like you got to watch this with your kids. So like we are at this crazy intersection of like our old lives or current lives as we're introducing them to new parts of our lives.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not the first time I watched, the original trilogy with my oldest daughter, when she finally was like, Dad, I want to watch Star Wars. And I went in the other room, did a little dance, and then came back and said yes.
Sure, we can do this.
Just small celebration. Oh, sure. That was me rewatching those movies with her for the first time, right? But with Skeleton Crew, or and now that she's been into Star Wars for a few years, we've had a lot of series, but specifically with Skeleton Crew, now my 4-year-old it's piqued her interest because she sees kids on the screen doing adventures. Yeah. So I'm watching new Star Wars with a new generation of fan, which I find incredibly awesome.
Yeah.
It's like I was saying, it's kind of fun because I inevitably watch episodes multiple times anyways,
right,
over the course of the season. But it's kind of fun because I get to watch them twice regardless, because I watch it by myself and I enjoy it, and then I watch it with her the next day because she's in bed by the time they come, they're streaming. I watch them with her the next day, and I get to kind of analyze the episode as she's watching it for the first time. So I get to kind of like, I'm past what did I just watch? This was so much fun. And now I get to like kind of pay attention to stuff in the background and everything. And it's really fun. It's experiencing new Star Wars for the first time with my kids is like, it's great. It's not until another movie comes out and we all get to sit in a huge theater with a bunch of fans again, and hear the fanfare and everything, and like it's gonna this is the closest thing to that of, when episodes in and when a big moment happens and like, she's super excited and she's saying, what was that? Who was that? Right. And I'm like, I'm just as in the dark as you are.
You're like, honestly, I don't know this time. This is great.
God bless her. She thinks I know everything about Star Wars. I'm like, this is all new. I don't know.
Sure. Uncharted territory here.
Yeah. So we're in the outer regions.
Yeah, 100%. So from your perspective, Deon, you've been able to, you are on our level of fan. You're digging into stuff. I love when you send over like a little note about, oh, dude, I was checking this out. Check this out. From your perspective, and we've kind of talked a lot about this, as the show has ended, we start getting information that comes out. Here's, this company's interpretation of viewership numbers, blah, blah, blah. And Skeleton Crew is kind of in this weird, like they just released Disney Plus numbers according to another, a third party, right? The only one who really knows Disney's numbers are Disney, and they don't release those numbers. So we have what's considered this quantitative viewing numbers, and Mandalorian season 1 is still one of the most watched shows in 2024. Skeleton Crew, I don't even think was, I think, Nick, was it even on that?
I didn't see it. No.
Yeah. So of course the internet's sitting here going, man, this was a great show, but no one watched it. But you're forgetting in so many ways that like kids don't necessarily prioritize watching something at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday or Tuesday night.
They're not trained the way we were.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you had Wednesday night at 9 p.m. or Friday night at 6 p.m. You had your shows.
Yeah.
Saturday morning cartoons.
Right.
That was a thing.
Yeah.
Now Saturday morning cartoons or whatever my kids want to watch, it's on Saturday morning.
Because of streaming.
If they want to watch Star versus the Forces of Evil, they can do that. If they want to put on She-Ra on Netflix, there's so many options.
Yeah.
So check this out. I pulled this the Luminet data.
Yeah.
That's the list that we're talking about here. Right. Check this out. And like this puts a perspective onto like, we think Star Wars is on like a downturn right now, and Disney's like acting like it is. But here's the top 10 streamed shows on Disney Plus, according to Luminate data.
2024.
Percy Jackson. Yeah. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, number 1. Number 2, The Acolyte. Number 3, Agatha All Along. Number 4, Echo. Number 5, X-Men. And then check this out. Number 6, Star Wars The Bad Batch. Number 7, Star Wars Skeleton Crew. So it is on there.
Okay.
Number 8, Ahsoka. Number 9, Mandalorian Season 3. Number 10, Mandalorian Season 1. That's more than half is Disney Plus. Like,
right.
And it's all new stuff. It's not like A New Hope is on there.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So what are what on earth is going on with however they're perceiving
this is actually that point, like Deon.
It's because it's not number 1. That's what people are like, oh, it didn't knock it out of the park. It failed.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
number 1. Is there
every album we had after Cities is what it is. It's you put out Friendship and Cities back to back, and then after that everybody thinks that you are just you're on a downward slope.
Sure. And I remember specifically when you were talking about I can't remember, we had this like, you know, obviously like you got to do the whole thing of social media. Hey, this album came out. Do you remember this? And then I remember you posted specifically, you're like, okay, New Surrender was one of our most divisive albums internally, but it saved our band, right? And then you've got people in the comments being like just sharing their opinions about it.
Yeah.
And you're like,
and so many positive ones, which I was surprised about because at the time people hated us for that album.
Well, I mean, you know, it's I think in some ways you look at it and go, were people understanding exactly what was happening? And the business of music was changing drastically at that point.
Yeah.
There's definitely parts of it. I remember listening to it and being like, this is a departure. And then this also feels super familiar. But I think from a standpoint of being just putting your art out there for immediate comment, which is something that, again, we've talked about in the fandom menace of people either just sharing their opinions or sharing their thoughts out of it. You see all the comments for everyone who's sitting here being like, oh, this thing sucks. This thing sucks. This is great. This is awesome. It's all there for the people who made the show to see. So you kind of get to this point where you're just like, you know, this is chaotic to be an artist at this point in any way.
The thing that I find funny when I see like the super negative comments about any of the new Star Wars stuff is it's like the people who wrote this thought that they were writing something good.
Sure.
It's not that they said this sucks, let's make it anyways. Right. They were legitimately trying to make something that did Star Wars justice.
Sure.
Whether they fell short of that or whether they succeeded is purely opinion. You know, last summer we did a very long tour. We ran out of things to watch after a while because it was just like, holy crap, we have been on tour for 3 months, you know. Yeah. And I looked at Joe one day, I was like, did you even watch Acolyte? He's like, no. So we had a full day off,
marathon.
And everybody was off the bus. We were at Mall of America.
Sure, and sure.
I have done Mall of America so many times that I don't care. I don't shop on tour anymore because
it's got to be so empty these days, right? Just like empty stores.
Oh, it was slammed.
No, but like empty. Like I would assume, like any mall I go into has like empty.
No, I feel like Mall of America is like a theme park.
It is. Yeah. And
so
honestly,
it's like a destination. I think you have a lot of people going there to buy a lot of stuff and then take it home, like type of thing.
Sure.
It's a destination.
I've been there once.
I mean, I've been there like 5 or 6 times, but in my opinion, because I'm not the most social, like put me in a gigantic building with a ton of people type person, right. Which is weird because I love Disney. It's just that you have the same stores everywhere now, sure. You know, so it's like I don't need to go shopping on a day off on tour. Sure. I want to sit on my butt and binge Acolyte, which is exactly what Joey and I did.
Nice.
And so we get through the first episode. I'm like, what do you think? You want to keep watching? He's like, yeah, that was rad. So nice. we keep watching, you know, we finally get to the night episode.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, just you just have the stranger.
Chimera creeps down.
Yeah,
at the
Chimera,
end, like,
stranger,
like a
just like
vampire. Yeah,
yeah,
shit.
just I mean that whole seeing, you know, a dark Jedi or you know a Sith apprentice. I really hope we get to find out what the whole Plagueis angle was with him. Like, was he actually like a prospective apprentice of
Right.
Plagueis, or was he actually Plagueis' apprentice? You know,
Sure.
But just watching, you know, like a group of Jedi fight one lone, like dark side wielder was
and just
like,
get housed. Like,
yeah,
not
and
even
just like
close.
when the moment you realize his lightsaber comes apart, and then like that his armor is made of cortosis, which is a callback to the Bane trilogy, which made me so excited. And I hope that's like an Easter egg of like it's coming.
Sure.
You know, if they don't ever do a Rule of Two series, I'm gonna be so sad. But you know, just like we watched the episode and Joe was like, what did I just watch? That was insane. Like, I mean,
so he's hyped on it.
Yeah, he was hyped.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm you know, full honesty, the only episode that he was kind of like, was the episode, I think was it episode 2 or 3 with you know, the full flashback episode.
Yeah, sure.
You know, it was a little cheese ball. Even me who enjoyed the series from
Sure.
beginning to end. There were parts that I can still look at and go, I didn't like that much.
Yeah.
But I didn't go online and just,
and I think,
you know, I didn't take my like keyboard warrior fingers and like get online and attack everybody.
In retrospect, too, like I wish there would be some tact there to be like I understand they're trying to tell a story, and that story probably needed to be told in episode 3.
Yeah.
But like all of the stuff in the last episode that was awesome. If that happened in episode 1 or 2, and you saw Plagueis sneaking behind in a cave, and you saw the back of Yoda's head, if those happened in episode 1 or 2, more people would get attracted. Instead, here's this like new feel, totally new, like no characters you get, and then episode 3 is like a sci-fi episode about witches, and people. Like you're almost like shooting yourself in the foot with when they put that episode out. But
sure.
And you know, you know, given the scope of time that the show was being filmed, you know, was probably overlapping with Ahsoka, and with Ahsoka being filmed, and so not really knowing fan reaction to deeper Star Wars lore, like, oh, I didn't watch Clone Wars, so I don't understand that. I didn't watch Rebels, so I don't understand that. Not knowing that people were going to have a weird, like, what is happening, like, and getting kind of angry about it. Because I've heard people, you know, talk about that of like, I didn't know I was going to have to watch all these other shows just to understand what's going on. I was like, I mean, did you really? I mean, I feel like they did a pretty good thing with Ahsoka as far as exposition goes.
Yeah.
But I feel with that episode 3 of Acolyte specifically, if you weren't fully versed in like Witches of Dathomir, for instance, you know, like just that whole storyline from Clone Wars,
right?
It's going to catch you off guard, and you're going to go, "This isn't Star Wars. What am I watching? Like a weird Game of Thrones episode? What is this?" You know. So, yeah. The timing I thought was weird, dedicating a whole episode to it rather than maybe peppering in the flashbacks.
Right.
Was the thing that I was kind of struggling
I'm saying
with.
It's like tact, you know, like I really think if you're going to, I don't know, let's put this, let's kind of bring this back to at least how I think sometimes Bayside writes songs and writing songs, where if we really do have a crazy song, we try to anchor it in something that's very Bayside, you know, like if it's too out of left field, we try to be like, okay, some people might like that because it's different, but let's hedge our bets here and make it a little bit more Bayside. Like, and I feel like where some people got turned off from Acolyte is that it was just not enough Star Wars. Yes, there's Jedi. Yes, there's lightsabers. There's Wookiees, but there was a feel that was missing, and it was too different, too quick. When they could have eased it in it, you know, in a sense of kind of just giving it a safety net. But this is all in retrospect, obviously.
Yeah, I think there's something about when we look at what's new, because the fans want new. So they say, we want to get out of the Star Wars, you know, whatever. What do we say, right? We got to get out of the Skywalker saga, blah, blah, blah. Skeleton Crew did that. Acolyte did that. Technically, Andor did too, and people struggled to either get through it or couldn't get off their own pride to actually watch them in some ways. But I mean, from your perspective, Deon, you've got kids. I know kids who watched this show and they were like, "That was awesome." Like, do you think Star Wars waited too long to bring new fans, like onboarding some new fans to be able to be like, here, just like a freeway, you can get on at any point. You'll like this, you'll enjoy it, which Skeleton Crew is kind of a refreshing way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say, given just reactions I've seen of young kids at Galaxy's Edge to since the addition of Mando and Grogu,
right?
I feel like they pretty well kind of got pulled a lot of fans in with the first season of Mandalorian.
Sure.
And things like that. And then it's like, but yeah, again, I guess the deeper stuff maybe. I've got a friend who's got kids that are around my kid's age, and the oldest is going on 13, and he's just now watching Clone Wars as a 13-year-old.
Sure.
And my daughter pulled rank on him. Like, I've seen all of them twice, and
that's a lot to get through. I mean, it's a lot of episodes to get through.
But I'm like, well, there's a lot of kids that have watched all of these series that have not even gone back and revisited yet, and it's a lot of Star Wars to get through, and but I'm glad it happened the way it did, because I feel like Skeleton Crew happened organically. I feel like they didn't try to come out immediately and just be like, let's make a show that's going to draw in the kids.
Sure.
It's like, I feel like that would have yielded a less than stellar product than what we got with Skeleton Crew. And I've talked to people that had their misgivings about the show, and I've voiced any misgivings that I've had, when I'm in conversations. But overall, I'm just like, you know what? I really enjoyed the show. I really did. It called back to the and Nick and I had talked about this, and you guys talked about it on an episode when I think it was the premiere episode of kids in the adult world.
Yeah.
And for those of us that grew up in the the 80s and 90s as kids, we saw a lot of movies like that. There were these kids that were taking on the adult world, that were going on these adventures, that were having to use their wits and everything. And which Fern immediately was one of my favorite characters on the show, with how quickly she could lie.
Yeah. Right.
To as a survival instinct. Right.
Yeah.
It was, but the actor, specifically the way that she would change and contort her face when she would go into these quick little stories to try to either pull information out of somebody or trick somebody into doing something she wanted or whatever. She quickly became a favorite of mine, because she reminded me of a Corey Feldman.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? He was such a charismatic actor in general, but his character was very much like that. So it hit all the nostalgia for me.
Right.
And being that I was born in 1980, and I grew up through all the 80s with Star Wars, you know what I mean? Sure. And then and of course all these other movies, it pulls my whole soul and mind back to that era where I was seeing all these movies for the first time that have since become classics.
The perfect Anblin, the genre defining.
Is that where you got your band name from?
Oh, nice.
We just mix it around a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really interesting conversation. I think whenever we talk about this idea of going, there's movies that become comforts to us, and there's themes that become comforts to us. And I give a lot of credit to Nick, because Nick is always finding new music. And like, posting new music, and I'm like, oh man, this feels familiar. And there's like new bands that I've gotten into that I like because it reminds me of your music. You know what I mean? Like you go back to these bands of being like, oh yeah, they might not necessarily be doing anything new, but this reminds me of, I'd always say like, oh, they sound like this, band that of course I reference as my anchors, right? The Anne Boleyn's, the Against Me's, the Baysides, the Green Days. So there's something about like when we're kind of, and I work with college students, right? So I'll be like, what are you guys listening to? And they'll show me a band, and I'm like, really? This is okay. That's fine. I like Hot Mulligan. I think it's great. But, I'm like, there's some of these songs. I'm like, this, I know where this song came from. And that's fine. But they
Not
know
to
where
take
it came
anything
from.
away from, but that was literally my first reaction the first time I heard Turnstile was I was like, this is Snapcase. I was just like, I was like, this is Snapcase. But but that, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's not like it came out a year after like Progressions Through Unlearning. I mean, we're talking 20, 30 years on, nearly that, these bands, a lot of these bands are coming out, and this goes into, I guess, if something endures, it's going to only influence generation after generation, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
So, and to bring it back to what we're talking about, like we're seeing that with Star Wars, we're seeing these influences have endured.
Right.
And we're now at a point, I guess, more so specifically with Skeleton Crew, whereas with Mandalorian, they were pulling in like kind of like Western themes and like samurai themes, which is, which was always there in Star Wars. It was a little more, I feel like it was a little more in the obvious with Mando. I mean, just the opening scene alone to the whole series was full on, just like dude
Clint
walking
Eastwood.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't even whistle right now. I don't even know why I tried. I don't know if you know about these harsh Florida winters.
Oh yeah, right. As I just felt that the plow just went by, I'm like, oh yeah, tell me
when my heat kicks on, like I'm just like dried out completely. But it smells like my house is on fire because my heat. It was like the first time it's kicked on in like 10 months. But I feel like but we're talking about influences on guys like like Filoni or whoever is Favreau it's kind of maybe that goes back even maybe more to the 70s when you had like the spaghetti westerns and everything. But so I think for those of us that are our age, or people that were born right at about the time where Star Wars was was just, it was Return of the Jedi,
sure.
Like, holy crap, the third movie just hit. We just learned that, spoiler alert, Vader is Luke's father. Sorry if anybody didn't know that out there.
Who's watching the Star Wars podcast?
Who's watching it for the first time?
Are you serious?
So we were born right in the middle of just like the holy shit, what is happening in Star Wars, right? And around that same time, you had a lot of amazing things happening you had Indiana Jones, you had Goonies, you had E.T., you had a lot of films, Jurassic Park, and you had a lot of films that were, or even like a film like Sandlot. It's just like you have this film where it's like like for most of the film, it's just kids, but they're not. It's not like cheesy Nickelodeon or Disney at the time, Disney like sitcom, like it's not
slapstick and all that.
It's not like iCarly or something where it's like just super goofy, like low budget. I mean, you had like
Spy Kids.
You had like these like actually like these kids were really good actors. Basically acting like adults, like, as kids, and like going on these adventures and doing these things. And the way these things were shot, you had guys like Steven Spielberg like, directing these movies and things like that. So it's like so to have it get all the way now to 2024, 2025, and we get a show like Skeleton Crew that a lot of the sweeping, and thank God for the technology we have now with, just the way CGI and practical effects and everything are so, seamlessly melded. I mean, you still have some dickhead with his 4K television, like, oh, I could see the background the whole time. It looks so separated. I'm like, yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I could tell that that owl wasn't real.
Yeah.
There's
So,
like
but,
go ahead, Dan.
oh, I was just saying, to wrap it up, to see like that marriage of very good directing with storytelling, as well as just the visuals that this show had was, I mean, I think it's my favorite. One of the ones that I was just like, man, that I feel like I'm a kid again watching this is the horizon shot when they were on the planet, where they're just walking across their silhouettes. And they're on the moon and they're walking. I was like, dude, this is just full on. Like, this is me with a VHS cassette on a Friday night watching
100%.
a movie. As a kid, I've got popcorn, I've got Hershey's bars, I'm, eating all the junk food, and I think it's so late and it's only 8 o'clock. Like this is like the show gave me that feeling so much.
Yeah.
And this being an episode about a lot of nostalgic things, I think I think those things, it never gets old. And that feeling, it may be hard to recapture,
right?
But when you feel it, you really feel it.
When you're thinking, this is a question for both of you. When you're going back and looking, I think about this from like, John Watts' perspective, or Chris Ford. They're referencing something at a very like impressionable time of their life. When you guys are writing, Never Take Friendship Personal, are there moments where it's a two-part question. Were there moments when you were recording that album where you were like referencing a specific, you guys have covered Depeche Mode, like you definitely are not shy of your influences on some of the songs that you guys have recorded and put out. But is there a conscious effort to reference a song, particularly being like, dude, I can't get over the vibe of how this one makes me feel when we're writing something like that? Were there any direct references the same way that Lucas was looking at Kurosawa films and
Can I answer for you?
Yeah,
I want to answer for you. I want to know, Deon, because these two songs are incredible. One of yours and the other is Flock of Seagulls, Space Age Love Song. Is Impossible have anything? Is that a like, I love those songs, and Impossible is one of my favorite Anne Boleyn songs, and I'm like, that has to be the reference for that one.
100%.
Yes. Breaking news.
So not only did we, when we recorded our cover of New Order's True Faith, we had going back to Mike mentioned it, us mentioning that New Surrender kind of saved our band. The even though it was a polarizing album, the success that album had kept us going for another 3 albums after that. And then, after our hiatus, we came back and we put another album. We released the album, Feel Good Drag Goes to radio. It's kind of just floating in radio. It wasn't falling off the charts. It wasn't really climbing. It was just kind of swimming, up and down. And then, so the label gets a little nervous. They go, we want to do a special edition of the album. We want to release it with some B-sides and some, maybe a cover song. So we're like, okay, well, so we start kicking around ideas for a cover song, and amongst the cover songs we were kicking around, one of them was Space Age Love Song, which is one of Joey's favorite 80s songs. Incredible. Because of that dotted eighth delay on the guitar. I am convinced that was Tom DeLonge's entire inspiration for Angels and Airwaves.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, you could say U2, but I'm like, dude, that's Flock of Seagulls, But yeah. So the dotted eighth on the dotted eighth delay on Impossible, which was the album right after New Surrender, is 100% inspired by.
I love it. It's one of my favorite Amberlin songs. But I, you know, like, and you know, just not to confuse anything, like, you know, every band has influences and references other songs or whatever. And I think that song in 0% is like rip off or anything like that. Just to clear that up, like you could tell that it's inspired by, and I think that is a beautiful thing in music to have. Like when you talk about like being in a band and having songs that live forever and stuff like that, when you have a band like, or a song like Space Age Love Song that like basically gets referenced into an Anne Boleyn song, like that's living forever. That's Space Age Love Song living on for generations and inspiring other people to be like, that song is so good that we need our own Space Age Love Song, you know. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
And I've tried to describe this, and you know, and directors do the same thing with, you know, these shows, these Star Wars shows and movies we're talking about. I think the way that something goes, you know, into your eyes or into your ears when you're, you know, watching a movie or listening to a song, the way it comes in may be like, I want to do that, but the way it comes out is how your brain
totally
interprets
it out, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So even, you know, the first time I watched Hidden Fortress, I could see the influence of that in A New Hope or just, you know, Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
I could see that for sure, but I was like, but how did we get from like samurai, like protecting your princess after a war, you know, that's happened, to robots and wizards and, you know, like, and pirates, you know, like it was. So he took that influence of how Kurosawa accomplished what he did,
right,
and then he made Star Wars. And I've always found that fascinating. It's how the, you know, human brain works, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys have talked about it. It just hit my mind as I was talking about the Hidden Fortress nod in the Obi-Wan series is one of my favorite things ever. When Leia asked, like, do I not speak, or can I? I think she said, how should she phrase it? Like, he tells her you don't speak.
Yes.
And it's fully the princess pretending to be a mute in Hidden Fortress, 100%.
Oh yeah, okay, sure.
Because they don't want her to talk. He doesn't want her to talk because they will recognize her, like, probably dialect. Her, like, her dialect, and know that she is from a royalty, like, level in society and everything, as they're in this, like, you know, poor village in the Japanese countryside. And I think Leia asks Obi-Wan, like, I can't speak or I don't speak. And he just tells her, don't speak. Don't talk, you know, like, basically. But I actually, and, you know, again, I mean, you're just sending nods back to, like, the things that influenced Star Wars.
Right.
How 40 years later, 50 years later, how many years? Can't remember how. 50 years since since Hidden Fortress. I can't remember how old that movie is, but yeah. I mean, you're nodding way back to the inspiration of Star Wars with the Obi-Wan series. So, you know, again, I always say it, like, if these people know what they're doing in these shows, so, like, all these fans that act like they know better than these people that know everything about Star Wars, it's like, I'm just like, maybe they know more than you, and that's why they get this story and we're able to write this story more than you were able to understand and comprehend this story.
You're exactly right, because it's people who are using Star Wars as a reference for Star Wars, which is why The Mandalorian turned out the way that it did, was because Favreau went, I don't want to retread a story in Star Wars that we've already seen. I want to go back to Kurosawa. I want to go back to A Fistful of Dollars. I want to go back to all that stuff that George was really into. The, you know, the modifiers in Book of Boba Fett is a direct callback and reference and homage to American Graffiti. And I know for people who go, oh, this, and they have all these reasons why, but it's like, he didn't think that hard about lore building. The guy had Luke and Leia kissing in the second movie, for Christ's sake. So, like, there's a lot of these things where
I say this, sorry to cut you off, but I've since we brought up our second album, like, when people have asked me, like, about how did you feel when you were making Friendship, I was like, I just felt lucky that we got to make a second album,
True.
And I'm sure Lucas probably felt the same way. He's like, I'm just lucky that my crazy space pirate, space wizard story was loved so much that I get to make another one.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm sure he had a rough outline. There's a debate out there, but I'm like, it kind of felt like you were flying by the seat of your pants there for a second, but
absolutely he was.
Like, oh, I get to make another one. Oh crap! All right,
I'm gonna ask my film professor to direct this one instead. That's the true way to hand it off. Speaking of being influenced and inspired by things, we also have to mention, of course, that Deon, you were going to be at Mosh Isley as our special guest DJ, which we're super excited about because Nick is going to be headed
jolly
to
old England.
Yep, he's going to be in the UK,
the shroom, baby.
That's right. So we're super excited to have a Florida native come and hang out with us at Sun on the Beach, and then we also have another Florida native, Ryan Key, coming to join us, as he has had a hell of a year to kick off this. We're not going to talk about that just yet, but he was sharing enough to say that I did a little thing at Abbey Road, casual little recording studio, if anyone's ever heard of it. But he's super excited to come and party with us. So Deon, from your perspective, you almost were able to attend one time. You got sick. Thank you for not bringing the funk. We all got it anyways, even though you stayed home. I think
you made it to Vegas. You were at the second one ever for a minute.
I was at the Vegas one.
Yeah. So we end up getting con crud anyways. It doesn't matter. Even if you get sick next week, Deon, just come. But from your perspective, like when you've done emo nights before, but you're also a massive Star Wars fan. So like from your perspective of seeing like when we kick this thing off, what are your reactions of being like, what is this?
I mean, to me, it's what, anytime two things that I love come together,
You're right.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna have double the fun. Oh, sounds like a terrible time. So I mean, the first time you guys announced it, I was just like, in my head, just like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you have, a large group of fans that there's a huge cross section, not only in their interest, obviously because of Star Wars, but there's a huge cross section just in the music that they listen to. And you combine those two things and like, hey, you get to come, basically you get to come and like dress up in whatever Star Wars gear you want to. You can show up in your everyday clothes, who cares? But you get to come and be surrounded by Star Wars visuals and listen to music that you enjoy. It just makes a lot of sense. It seems like something that would just be very fun. I mean, it would be like going to a really awesome Halloween party, but not in October,
Absolutely.
So
from Nick, I mean, when you, at this point, for both of you, actually, I mean, first of all, how many other people in this, I would say the emo sphere, know that Mosh Isley exists, and how many other people have you explained it to or talked to about it to be like, we do emo night, but it's different. It's galactically different. Is there any, has this ever come up yet?
I can't really think of anyone. I mean, like I know Ashi, who's been on the show from Beartooth, like he definitely knows about it. And there was one, was it Orlando? I think Beartooth might have played in Orlando the night of
A Day to Remember too. Someone
I don't know, but definitely Ashi from Beartooth. They played Orlando, maybe the House of Blues or something. The night of our Orlando one. So there's a couple of buddies out there. I haven't really. What's strange is like we go on tour and we'll bring other bands on tour, but a lot of bands that like we're friends with, we don't really see each other too often unless we go to each other's shows. Like there's When We Were Young where I could see Anne Berlin, but like we haven't toured together in 18 years.
So what's up with that?
Well, Anne Berlin wasn't a band for a little bit.
Oh yeah, sure.
And then we became a band again, but couldn't tour. And now we can tour again. So we'll figure that out next year.
We'll figure it out.
2026, you heard it here. But from your perspective, Deon, from an emo night perspective, there a couple songs that you're like, are going to hit so that people can at least have an idea of being like, if you were to be like, these are my 3 songs that I know are bangers for the crowd, what are your Mosh Isley songs that people are going to listen to and go, okay, I'm ready for DJ Deon to hit the hell out of these tracks?
So before I answer that, I've been doing something lately that I've had fun with. I've been playing songs that are kind of uncharacteristic of emo nights. And I kind of and Nick, I know you're the same way, because listening to your radio podcast, you theme stuff and everything. You kind of build you can kind of like, I'll get a request for a song and I'll go, if it's something like hey, play Dance Gavin Dance, I'm like, I don't know how to get
get to it from where we're at right here.
So I'm like, all right, I was like, okay, I gotta work into this. I gotta play a few songs into it and then a few songs out of it, or just I gotta play like, and if it's like if somebody requests a song that might, it's like, all right, I'll play it. And if if it's a song that I'm like really iffy on, like I'm gonna put like a surefire hit right behind it. So if I lose 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes of interest where people are kind of like, you never know with a crowd.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I just DJ'd Christian and I's Unfun DJ night here in St. Pete last weekend. And you never know what the crowd's going to be into. So I had somebody request a Dance Gavin Dance song, and they're a band that I know they have a large following. But their songs don't always go over well for some reason.
Oh yeah, sure.
Sometimes you put on a Dance Gavin Dance song and it's like, and I'm not a fan personally, and it's just not my style, but nothing against them, great songwriters. But so I'm just
Nick's
like,
gonna say this is what Bayside is for him at email.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like thinking like, man, I got this. I got 3 minutes and 50 seconds of Dance Gavin Dance here. What am I gonna put on? I mean, I feel like you cannot go wrong with playing anything from one of the the first 3 Taking Back Sunday albums. You cannot go wrong if in a pinch. You can never go wrong with Misery Business.
Yep. Sure.
If you're hitting a little bit of a lull tonight, just fucking start Black Parade, and the minute that piano hits, the crowd lights up.
Sure.
Those are songs that are like surefire hits. But if I'm going to songs that I would say are kind of like not like your
expected
obvious
sure.
obvious bangers, a song that I've been like popping in, and I'm gonna give away a little bit of here, but a song that I've been popping into my rotation just for fun, just to see people's reactions, is Rebel Girl by Bikini Kill.
Oh, that's a good track.
People love it.
Sure.
That's great.
Like, and I'm just like, okay, I mean, I feel like it's a gamble, but like it's kind of like one of those like songs that I've, obviously Bikini Kill was influentially a big deal back in the day, and they have endured over time as just like such a mainstay with the whole Riot Girl era of things. And obviously getting back together was a big thing, but I never know. I'm like, man, like this could go bad or it could go good. So
we tried a couple of moshes ago, probably San Diego. I think we tried it the first time. I was just thinking more era specific and not emo. Yeah. And I was like, let's try I Believe in a Thing Called Love, Called the Darkness. And that's like an went off A+ song right away.
Absolutely
like,
crushed.
Mainstay now. I was like, that was one. 2000, whatever it was, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Banger.
Yeah.
I mean,
for your right to party. Like there's just some genre breakers, I would guess, that just like people.
Well, there's some that are just like, they're so big. Like I wouldn't have thought until I guess fairly recently to play Linkin Park In the End. Right? Do I consider that
like a downer? But
not really, because when that song came out, I was listening to music that wasn't even near that, and I was like, I don't like this band, because Linkin Park came around, the whole like rapcore thing, and
new
that wasn't really my jam. I wouldn't get mad if it was playing, but it's not. I didn't buy any. I've never purchased
hybrid theory or Meteor.
All the words though.
But you know what, because they that big. So
yeah.
like, you know, going back to last weekend, I just for fun threw on In the End kind of early on in the night to stir the pot and get people hyped up. And it was just like, I mean, people were just like hands in the air, just like, you know, like
Visceral.
yeah, just yelling these lyrics. I'm like, it's just crazy. Like, I mean, I would have never thought, you know, and one that's I will answer your question actually at one point, but another one that's funny like that for me, that's same era is Lit, My Own Worst Enemy. Has become a huge emo night mainstay.
Absolute
but it was just they were just a radio rock band from Orange County, you know, but I think one of my favorite songs to throw in that's not like an obvious like, oh well, of course they're going to play this.
Sure.
Is I think any of the songs off Dude Ranch from Blink-182, like Voyeur, like just
Pathetic.
Fun.
Sure. Josie, honestly, Josie's a band.
Yeah. You know, there's songs that's like, it's like people, I mean, almost, you know, pretty much it's from Blink, and it's from like the album where Blink started like really taking off, so people are gonna know it, for the most part, or at least the majority of the people. So those are like the ones that I kind of have fun, you know, throwing in is you know, it's like, of course I'm going to play Make Damn Sure. Of course I'm going to play Helena. Like, why you even felt the need to come up and request that at the DJ booth is beyond me.
Excuse me, Mr. Amberlin, I would like to put in. I would like to put in Teenagers by My Chemical. You ever heard of it?
Have you ever heard of Say Anything? Can you play While I Can Get Sexual?
Sure.
You know, it's like, so I mean,
didn't we open? I think we actually opened Orlando last year with Damn It.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we did. Yeah. That was it's certainly something.
We've also, I want to say we opened whatever the next one would have been San Diego. I think we opened it with Rock Show.
Oh, really?
I think we opened a couple with Blink.
I was, So, but then we did also do A New Hope off Dude Ranch, Deon, to your point, at the first one. Because, I mean, you know, kind of fitting with all that.
It's weird that that's not a mainstay. I think we just kind of.
It's a deeper cut, dude. It's a deeper cut.
Yeah, but it's like, I go back and forth with what it's a club night, right?
Right.
And if you go to a club, you're allowed to not look at the stage and talk to your friends. Yeah. You know, and in Mosh Isley, it's like, look at us, look at the stage right now. If you, oh my God, that person,
you're going to miss Darth Vader.
Yeah. It's like, it's
and that's the thing that's fun is the sensory overload of the, you know, just the way like characters roll out, you know, during the course of a Mosh Isley. And I have a fun thing that I want to talk to Mike about. I can talk to you too about, Nick, because you won't be there, but it's just a fun idea.
We got a thing.
I think it'd be so much fun. But I think the visual aspect of Mosh Isley is one of the things that's so fun about it, because like I said, it's you're marrying two things that you love. So you've got music that you really want to hear, but you also have like all this like just inundation happening with all the costumes. And it's not just like the, you know, like the 501st vibe costumes where it's just like, holy crap, movie set accurate things. It's like you have all these people just making their own Star Wars
inspiration,
what their translation is, or you know, of this thing that they're inspired by. You know, whether it's just a homemade shirt or whether it's actually a full outfit. So, you know, everywhere you look, you're seeing things that you love, and then you're here, you know, and then you're also hearing music that you love. So it's a really rad, I mean, you have to be like, if you're, I mean, I know I was the first time I went to the one in Vegas, like, and I think I had like 10 hours or 11 hours of flying that day. I was exhausted by the time I got to the venue where it was happening, and a little drunk, and like, I think I was only there for like 2 hours, because it was almost last call by the time I even got to Mosh. I got there like at midnight. I guess, well, it's Vegas, not really the last call, but you guys were like wrapping up, you know, after a couple hours, and I was like drained. I feel like after like just like 2 hours, of that first experience of just like I'm up there like dancing and singing with Adam and Nick and Sarah and everybody else that was there, and we're having a great time, but I'm also like everywhere I look was like something like, oh look at that. Look at that! Look at that! Like, oh, that guy is that. There's George Lucas. There's like always the inevitable George Lucas cosplay in the crowd.
Yeah.
So it's,
shout out to Martin. He crushes it. It's awesome.
I think I knighted him that night.
Nice.
I took his lightsaber and I tapped him on each shoulder.
Sure.
Which if that was a real lightsaber, that would just destroyed him. But
it would have been a scene, that's for sure.
Yeah,
well, I think from our perspective of doing this, Orlando is one of the best. The venue is awesome. The Fortune House Productions, our buddy Ben, they do it. They kind of give us full access to what we want to do, and it's been really the lighting is awesome. And I specifically remember just kind of like I go back with Adam. And Ryan Key's up here doing his thing, and you're just looking at it's a little hazy. You're looking at all these lightsabers going back and forth. I'm just like, this is like, even though we've done enough of them at this point, it's still unbelievably fun to go up there and just like kind of just recognize. I always kind of like make a little note to acknowledge this, that like you are among your people, which is such a great thing to have at this point, and especially with the way that, this year is already kicking off for a lot of people. You're kind of just looking over at people and being like, I need people who are on my side. Yeah. I got people who aren't afraid to be in love with what they're in love with, and they're not afraid to be who they are at this point, which like, as you get older, you kind of start giving less of a crap about what other people think. And like when people walk into my office at work, they're like, oh, I can tell you're into Star Wars. And I'm like, yeah, I even got.
Yeah, what do you like?
I got the tattoo, bro. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, what do you have pictures of your children in your desk? Like,
sir.
Well, you know what? I have pictures of my children too, but I also have pictures of Darth Vader. Like I
have pictures of my kids.
I like to surround myself with things that when I look at them, they give me joy. Why is that an odd concept?
Yes, absolutely. So
as a wise man once said, imagine enjoying the thing you enjoy.
Oh, the greatest, one of the best quotes out of this. Well, speaking of that, next week, even though Nick is going to be on a flight, it is our actual 5th anniversary of Thank the Maker, a Star Wars podcast that hopefully we can have a little conversation. Adam will be back. We're going to see if Ryan's available. And I know for people who are like, where's Ryan been? When you realize what Ryan has been up to, you're going to go, okay, cool. Dude's been busy. He's been on one, right? And we're not going to talk about it, but like, it's going to be insane, which I'm so excited for him about. And there's a lot of other things that are happening. So don't worry. Ryan Key's coming back on the podcast. We're going to have conversations. We're going to talk about this, but I think for Adam to kind of, for both of those guys to kind of look back and go, man, 5 years ago was a lot different for a lot of people. We've had some faces come and go. We have our buddy Jason, who's jumped on to help us produce the podcast just to make things, better. And then of course, like, Mosh Isley's been a thing to come out of it. And it's been super cool. So I'm geeked to hang next week. It's going to be rad. And I don't know, from your perspective, Deon, like, is there something that you are looking forward to experiencing, even though this is technically your second Mosh Isley, like this is your first time at kind of really seeing like what goes into all of it from behind the scenes and really kind of getting the full scope of what the experience is like.
Yeah, I'm excited to dress up this time. I mean, like I said, I was coming like just off a flight the first time I went. So, I mean, me being me, I was wearing at least some type of Star Wars something already, but this time I'm actually, I actually have a costume that I've I'm excited to wear and have fun with. And so, it'll be fun to be there from beginning to end. So, obviously getting there late last time, I missed the whole cantina time.
Sure.
So that's going to be fun to just be there and be a part of all the festivities and kind of get to soak it in a little bit before it becomes a big blur and a big party later on in the night, get to really check out these costumes that people put a lot of work and thought into.
Oh yeah.
And, to really see like the details of like how, it's for those of us that really do appreciate these films and this whole franchise in general, seeing the love and the thought that people put into the costumes will be really rad, because it's there because of inspiration. It's there because of the inspiration of the music that's going to be getting played, but the film that inspired them to make the costumes. Because one of the things I love about seeing the pictures is the costumes that are kind of like the merger of the music and the movies.
Oh, without a doubt.
Those like
the punk rebels and the
the
punk X-wing pilots.
God,
and all
I
those
feel
guys.
so bad. I'm going to say this wrong. Is it the Knights of the Black Parade? What's
the Knights? We call them the Knights of Chem, but
Knights of Chem. There we go. I knew there was a pun in there. The Knights of Chem are just incredible.
Awesome.
Every time they show up, like in the pictures, I love seeing that. So it's going to be fun to be able to actually soak in the whole thing this time from beginning to end, which haven't been able to do yet. So that's what I'm really excited about. So and I'm still trying to. I don't think I have to convince Erica to dress up. She's coming with me for the first time to experience Mosh Eisley. So that's actually gonna be fun for me, is seeing her experience this whole thing with everybody dressed up.
I would tell her she might get there and realize that, like, if she's not a big dresser upper, she might get there. Like, I specifically remember Ryan Key showing up last year in he has this like great smuggler's outfit that it was like a kind of Cal Kestis, Jedi inspired, right? That we wore on Star Cruiser. And he shows up and he goes, "Dude, I need a new outfit." I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, "Dude, I'm just in Star Wars stuff." I'm like, you look awesome. He's like, no, I gotta like punk this up, man. Like, I feel like I'm like left standing out here. I'm like, well, this is very Ryan Key of you. But second, we can put studs on this. You want to put studs? Like, let's go in the back and spray paint it. What do we got to do here? And now he's like,
he's got the bedazzler. Let's go.
He's like, I got my fit. I got this ready to go. So like, he's geek, but I think you're spot on about like people who figure out that mashup between, that being inspired by that era and then doing the Star Wars stuff. So we're super excited to have you, dude. It's going to be so much fun. Tickets are available on sale right now at mosheisley.com. Nick, what else am I forgetting? What else we got going on?
As far as Thank the Maker and Mosh, I mean, that's pretty much it. We're working on some stuff for the rest of the year as far as Mosh Eisley goes. And, I have a very busy year, so I'm going to apologize now about missing any Thank the Maker episodes. Bayside is playing double the amount of shows this year, so preemptively apologize for anything that I miss.
So make sure you go see Nick and Deon on tour when they come to a city near you, because I'm sure that they are going to get close enough for you to get in your car and drive and go relive all of your high school memories with these albums, or live your your best life as an adult in this current hellscape with your friends. And that's kind of the whole point, right? We could look at this and go, hey, support your friends. At this point, if you are listening to Thank the Maker and you're watching Deon and you're watching Nick, they're friends of yours at this point. Let's just go see them. All right. Enough of this. We've got our last week's bonus segment response with Deon. I'd like to get your take on this before we rack up. So the question that we usually ask our patrons is we just put out a bonus question that we like to riff on. And it's just a little extra, you can sign up for our Discord from thankthemaker.com. But we've got the bonus segment question was intriguing last week because we had Ryan Gosling potentially being in a Star Wars movie, in Sean Levy's movie, which most recently directed Deadpool and Wolverine. And so we asked our patrons what they thought about Ryan Gosling, or an actor that I would say this is like A+ tier for a guy right now currently. And we asked the patrons what they thought, but I'd like to get your response on an A+ list person entering Star Wars after we're done. We're giving a shout out to My Nerd Story, who said the question was, Ryan Gosling could possibly star in a Star Wars film. What other high profile actor would you like to see cast in a new Star Wars project? Intriguing enough, right? My Nerd Story says Jared Leto as Markion Rowe from the High Republic, which I scratch my head at and go, I could see it, or Bradley Cooper as, get this, Wedge Antilles.
Okay.
Okay, so something like it could. All right, now we're thinking about it. Kevin Weller says Gary Oldman. He would completely disappear into whatever character he's playing, and it wouldn't even be distracting that he's a big name. Which
no, I want him to be the same character from True Romance, but in Star Wars.
Oh, sure.
Dreads and all.
I was going to say The Fifth Element, but I mean, that works too. Absolutely. Nicholas Gaynor says Andy Samberg is the first one that came to mind being my favorite actor. Should he be a space cop or in a band? Laugh.
I think Adam wrote that one. I think that's a burner account.
Oh, Nicholas Gaynor. He's
trolling his own podcast.
Right. He's on a boat. Sure. Nate O'Shea, our buddy NATO Potato, says, since we just had Jude Law, I actually think it's a female's turn and would suggest Emily Blunt for something. I love this answer already. I'm not sure what project.
Was it Edge of Tomorrow? Was Edge
of Tomorrow? Yeah. Live, Die, Repeat, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, whatever.
With Tom Cruise. Yeah.
Incredible movie.
Yeah. Awesome. She was the Blade. What was her name? The angel of death or whatever.
I don't remember.
You remember that she had like that name? They put pin up art of her on the wall. Remember that? And she was like the dude. That's a great movie. But Emily Blunt for something. I'm not sure what project, but feel that her acting range could absolutely run the gamut. Old/High Republic Jedi to a New Republic bureaucrat to a scrappy citizen trying to make her way in the galaxy. Emily Blunt. I like that answer. I like it. Sith Lady says, honestly, none. Bring up new talents and new faces along with new stories. And we love our patrons for that. Julia is not messing around when it comes to bringing up new talent. Physics Buddy Joe says, I think face actors should be fresh and new, not connected to other franchises or roles. High profile actors work best when masked, I think. And if a movie or show needs a quote unquote big name to be successful, I fear the content will suffer. However, there have been a lot of big names join the franchise and they did not distract from the story. I think we'd all agree that Jude Law, certainly as of recent, was a big name that joined that absolutely crushed it. And I would also say too, Laura Dern crushed it in Last Jedi. I mean, we talked about this a little bit. Like Adam Driver wasn't a big name, but he's massive now. But I would absolutely welcome more stories of Kylo Ren coming back. I think it's interesting. And the last one that came up is Maddie Gunner says he's no longer with us, but Heath Ledger for me would have been the actor to get into Star Wars. I like that. Deon, from your perspective, A+ list, A list at least, maybe B+ list. What are you thinking for an actor that you'd love to see in Star Wars?
You know, it's I don't know if it'd be distracting, but I think he has proven himself to be a great actor. And when you brought up Heath Ledger, it kind of made me think of Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh yeah, sure.
I think that he would do a fantastic job. He's come from being like a kid actor to an actual like serious like very good actor. He was great in Dark Knight Rising. Yeah. And Inception. And so I mean he's someone that I think if you were going to go with someone recognizable or upper tier actor, I think that would be one to see interesting. I gotta say, and it's not a new thing, but I love the groundswell of support for Keanu Reeves playing Revan.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, right.
And I mean, I feel like it would be tough because you'd have to de-age and then let him be his like normal age if you were going to do like a full Revan story. But I can see how perfect that would be.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you just you're just like, oh yeah, you just basically make him Neo but a Jedi. And then there you go. That's Revan.
Yeah. I like that. And I think at a certain point, I think we're just more excited to see Star Wars stories get greenlit. I think we're excited to see where it's going to go after The Mandalorian Grogu. So we've got a lot of potential on the horizon. Mosh Isley tickets are available at moshisley.com. Check out Amber Lynn and Bayside on tour this summer. this.
Oh, also,
spring
I'm going to get
kicking
so
off,
much
all this
crap.
stuff. What happened?
I'm going to get so much crap if I do not mention this.
You have to.
So, and it actually ties into what we're doing. So, we just announced this past week that we are doing a graphic novel for Emberwin through Sumerian Comics, which was an absolute blast to make.
Looks so cool.
Nathan from Sumerian helped me bring an idea that I had just had an outline for too. He just put so much depth and everything into it and helped me write this story. And the tie-in is Juzi, who is the incredible artist who looked at the words on a paper and drew them and made these things. The moment I knew she was the perfect artist was the very first, and they could have been manipulating me, and if they did, good for them. The very first page in her portfolio was a Star Wars comic she did. So I was like, this is the one, I was looking through them all. I was like, nope. I was like, Juicy's it. So I would get so much crap if I totally was on here and forgot to talk about that. It's a weird space adventure. It is on pre-sale right now. Through Sumerian Comics. If you go to Amberlin on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere, and we have a link for it for pre-order. It will be shipping in April.
Sweet.
We've been working on it for the past I've been working on it for the past 7 months with Sumerian, with Nathan and the Sumerian folks. So I'm super stoked for it. And it's just Amberlin doing space adventures in a weird way. So I love it. With some weird social commentary, which is probably going to piss people off. So sure. All right, let's do it. Sorry to interrupt, but I was just like, holy crap, there's actually something I totally forgot to talk about.
That's great. So make sure you're grabbing both these guys on tour when they come to a city near you, and then we'll see you at Mosh Isley next week.
Yes.
Am I serious thinking about this? It feels
we're 1 week away.
It's true.
That is awesome. It's at Sun on the Beach in Orlando during MegaCon weekend. So if you're in town or thinking about swinging over to the con, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of great stuff there. Roosevelt's is going to be there. We've got a great a little news coming out from Roosevelt's pretty soon here, but we're super excited to link up with those guys and just see a lot of our friends back screaming their lungs out, having their best life in a galaxy far, far away. So make sure you head over to moshisley.com. And I think that's it for now. Nick?
Sounds good. May the force be with you, Mike.
May the force be with you. And have a great time
flying. With you, Deon.
May the force be with you.
And also with you. All right, I'm going to make sure that I can do this. I have to end this part. Wait, no, I have to actually sign off. See, Adam's going to kill me because I'm going to leave all this in. And I want him to know that I'm sitting here being, is this how I do this? I know how to do it.
Now is when you play the outro, by the way.
What is that? We have an outro?
Now is the time.
Oh, I see. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, there we go. We did it.
If you enjoy Thank the Maker, you can support us by following and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can support us directly at patreon.com/thankthemakerpod, where you can get access to our Discord server, exclusive content, exclusive merch, our recording live stream, and more. Our patrons quite literally make Thank the Maker possible.